All right, guys. Today on the show, I've got Greg Hickman. Greg actually runs a website called mobilemix.com. It's all about basically mobile site optimization. And today I guess Greg's going to kind of talk about mobile sites and optimizing them and anything really to do with mobile and the internet. So, Greg, I guess if you want to introduce yourself and kind of share your story.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. First of all, really appreciate it. So, Greg Hickman, I run the site mobilemixed.com, and I got started in mobile marketing in like 2005, early 2005. So this is before the iPhone. Blackberries were really the only sort of smartphone, and was working at an agency where I did a bunch of like text message marketing, mobile marketing promotions for a handful of professional sports teams and a couple other big brands, and that's kind of like how I got into mobile, and really just kind of fell in love with it. I thought it was going to continue to grow, and more people were going to, be connecting with businesses and brands through their mobile device. And then the iPhone came out, and it kind of like revolutionized the game. And then everyone started trying to build mobile apps and websites. And over those years, did a lot of consulting, worked for a couple other companies, and really got to the point where I felt like I wasn't really learning anything anymore. The people the companies that I was going to or working with, they were working with me because I had more experience in mobile than they did, and so my superiors, I couldn't really learn from them. So I started Mobile Mixed really with a selfish intention of I'm going to interview all of the people that I think are doing super cool things in mobile so that I can sort of pick their brain. And that's basically how the show started out. It was a video-based interview show just like this, and had brands from like CNN, JetBlue, 1-800-Flowers, and other strategists that either were kind of like high-end consultants or whatnot, and just really started picking their brain and talking about mobile and takeaways for people that are just getting started. And that's how the show started, and has evolved a lot once I kind of figured out who the audience was. And it's definitely small to medium-sized businesses or sort of consultants that are doing mobile. So now I'm training them, and I'm doing more solo episodes, just talking about mobile marketing in general, which covers mobile site optimization, but text message marketing, mobile app development, mobile SEO, all of those things. Mobile is a very big area. So kind of talk about all of those things and how it applies to everything else that you're doing possibly in your marketing.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome, and it's definitely unique, I suppose, from what a lot of other people are doing online. It's not something I really see a lot of.
Yeah, there aren't many people talking about it. At least in the blogging arena, like a lot of people that are talking about it are, those big agencies that are trying to land the big brands. There's only a few people that that are really talking about it on a small scale. Small scale meaning from like smaller businesses using it.
Right.
And then even the other podcasts that are out there really talk about it from, like the ones that I've seen are very focused on apps, app marketing or building apps or things like that, where, I come from a marketing background. I came from agency world and still work for a large brand, but also do a lot of work for small businesses on the side. So I'm kind of taking big brand strategy and then breaking it down across all different aspects of mobile, because, like I said, there's a lot of different aspects of mobile.
That's cool. So, I mean, primarily your site's obviously more gauged towards, kind of teaching people more about mobile website optimization versus like, some of these other places in podcasts that are doing more of the application side of things.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
And I know, like, I've looked, when I go into like my Google Analytics, just looking at some of my website stats, I'll find that, there's a good percentage of visits coming from mobile sites. I mean, have you found that like over the past few years that's really started to increase for a lot of sites?
Yeah, absolutely. And usually, I would gather just from my experience that any single person listening to this show that probably goes to check their Google Analytics will find that close to, if not already, they're at 20% of all of their traffic is coming from a mobile device.
Wow.
So, and it's blogs too. I mean, you just have to think about, and why I think I'm so passionate about this and so important, from a mobile aspect, is that, like right now we're on a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, we're a lot of people, you know, may only listen to this via audio at some point. And you know, we're going to sit there and, you know, I'm going to say mobilemix.com and you're going to say voicesofmarketing.com, and people are going to be on their phone listening to this audio only podcast, and the first time they ever visit your actual website is going to be from their mobile phone, because most podcasts are listened to from a mobile phone. I mean, if anyone on your email list got the email promoting this episode, clicked on the link, and they happen to look at their email on their mobile phone, they're now on your site from a mobile
Yep.
phone. So
Yep.
there's just so many ways that, like, as consumers, we're engaging with businesses and brands and, you know, blogs and things like that. You know, they're just bound to get there. So, you know, having a mobile-friendly site is super important.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too, and that's something I do too. You know, I'm constantly on my phone checking my email.
Yep.
You know, just really, I'm on my mobile device like nonstop. I mean, I'm probably on it just as much as a computer, if not more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it really, you know, I can see where it's really becoming a big thing, and the more and more as years go on, like mobile devices are just exploding. You know, it's like
Yep.
really a big thing. You know, especially now with the tablets. I don't personally own like an iPad or anything like that,
Mhm.
but that's just another means for obviously websites to be optimized for mobile.
Exactly. And it's I forget the exact statistic, because the original statistic was by 2015 more people would access the internet by a mobile device compared to a desktop PC, and I think it's already passed it. I forget. It's one of the ones I always forget to look back on, but I'm pretty sure that if it's not happened already, it's supposed to happen like by 2014. So it was like a whole year ahead of the game, based on the original study, which was done by Morgan Stanley. So I mean, especially when you look at globally, I mean, there's going to be people that eventually listen to this podcast, you know, around the world, and, you know, in those countries, you know, mobile devices may be like the only way that people access internet, which is the case for a lot of, you know, a lot of countries. So, you know, depending on who your audience is, and I'm speaking more generically, you know, anyone listening, you know, if your audience could be global, or if you're in another country and, you know, you're listening to this and, you know that most people, you know, consume this content on mobile devices, then it's even more important that your content is mobile friendly.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now, have you found that? I mean, do you have a lot of like clients coming to you, like looking for help, you know, optimizing their sites and things like that? Is that something that you kind of get into, or is it more just?
Yeah.
Okay. So
So we do. So kind of on the back side of the blog, there's like a service company that helps primarily local businesses. So people that have like brick and mortar establishments. We build and manage a lot of their mobile marketing campaigns, which includes their site. Kind of through a lot of the instruction on the site and in the podcast. I've definitely done coaching calls, you know, kind of guiding people on how to get their blog mobile friendly. You know, I've worked with, you know, some other bloggers and podcasters on making sure that their sites and things like that, you know, are mobile optimized. So yeah, it's definitely something that we do a lot.
now, do you find that, like, you know, a lot of these customers that could have, like, you know, older, say, like HTML style design sites, like, are you finding like you have to just do a complete redesign, or where does that kind of leave you when they're looking to get optimized?
Yeah, so there's kind of, we look at it from like two different groups. So there's the people that are building online businesses. You know, so when we're talking to bloggers and podcasters, the way we build sites, if we are to build a site for you, we build off WordPress, and we typically build off of the Genesis framework.
Yeah.
It's really stable. That's our preferred choice. Actually, when it comes to bloggers and podcasters, if they want us to do it, that's the only way we will do it, is if it's on that, because we don't dabble in a lot. I mean, at least with I'm not a developer, but my team, like, really just chooses to use Genesis. So, you know, if they're not really willing to change that, you know, we'll take someone's existing site and make it look exactly the same, but just put it on Genesis. So, I mean,
Right.
they're not really going to notice much of a difference. But then if it's a local business, so like a restaurant or a salon or something, we usually use different tools that kind of create like a separate mobile site, which, you know, you might have visited like a local restaurant site from your phone and noticed that the URL changes to like m dot, you know, and then the domain. So we'll use tools that allow us to make those sites for them, and then we never really even have to touch their original site. We just make sure that if a mobile device hits that URL, that it redirects to this mobile optimized experience.
Cool, cool. I know that's kind of like if you go to YouTube on mobile, that's basically exactly what they do.
Yeah.
Cool. So I mean, and that's funny too. I figured I'd ask about that because I run Genesis on my theme. I'm using
Hmm.
the 1140 theme, and
Yep.
I know my site's basically mobile optimized.
Yeah, yeah, I checked it out, and I mean, it's most of the themes on Genesis, which is through Studio Press. The themes that sit on top of Genesis are responsive today. Mine's I used this out of the box theme too. It's I think it was called Streamline.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm not using anything special. I didn't do any custom development. Responsive WordPress theme.
Yeah, no, I mean obviously most anything I would think you're going to be buying today, hopefully that's something that a lot of these developers would be considering too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So something else I figured would be good to talk about in terms of mobile is kind of like landing pages and how
Mhm.
that's sort of come into play with like mobile websites. Do you find that that's something pretty big that like a lot of clients are looking for, and like what are some ways that they might be utilizing them?
Yeah, so again, like with online marketers, those landing pages or lead pages or sales pages, webinar registration pages, um, those are the pages that basically turn your audience member into a paying customer. So they're super important, and again, just because so many people are reading email from their phone, they're on Facebook from their phone, that they could end up on these pages depending on how you're marketing them on a mobile device. So I think they're super critical, and there's various tools out there that really help you make them. I prefer to use one called Lead Pages. I mean, it's super simple. It's most of the templates that you can use. They're proven for conversion, and then they're built responsively, which allows them to kind of adjust based on the device that the visitor is coming from. So that's a no-brainer, and it's super inexpensive. I think it's like only like $200 a year or something right now.
Yep.
So I use that for myself, and I kind of recommend it to other people depending on what they're trying to accomplish. There's a few others. I mean, Optimized Press 2.0 just came out, and that has responsive solutions as well. So that's another good one. I use both for different things, and there's another one that just came out called 10-minute pages, I believe, that looks pretty cool, and they built all of that responsively. So all of these things, allow you to create sales pages, lead pages, webinar registration pages,
Yep.
all built that will work on a mobile phone.
Yeah, yeah, no, I've looked at some of the lead pages content, and I've also looked. I don't own it, but I have looked into Optimized Press, in terms of like more membership sites, and I know
Yeah,
they do
I
lead
own
pages.
both. I just got Optimized Press 2.0 not too long ago, and my membership group is powered through that, and it looks great on a mobile phone. They have all these templates you can choose from for your membership site, and they're all responsive. And it's not about it's less about the fact that it's mobile, but it's more about the fact that your customer can just get it wherever they want to and whenever they want. I mean, if your customer chooses to go through one of your coaching lessons that's on the membership site from their phone, and they're paying you hundreds of dollars a month to be in this group, it should be able to work from their mobile phone. So,
Right.
it's we have to make sure that our content is able to be consumed on whatever device our customers want, and those sorts of tools really help you get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really, I mean, I figured too that that was something I wanted to kind of poke your brain on was is most of the stuff, kind of coming up with, using WordPress sites.
Yeah.
Like I figured that's probably where the majority of this is, but
Yeah, especially like again for online businesses, definitely. You can use responsive WordPress themes. If you are again like a local business, I don't really think that you need to be using like a responsive WordPress theme. I think you could be using something that's more catered towards converting a mobile searching customer. Because again, a local business, the person who finds you from a mobile phone has much higher intent than, say, someone who finds a blog from a mobile phone. If I'm looking for a restaurant on my mobile phone, I've probably already determined that I want food. I just need to know where it is, how to get there, call and make a reservation, or maybe I'm
Yeah.
just checking to see the menu. So like I'm going to take action, and Google has actually reported on this. They said that 97% of local mobile searchers take action within 1 day, and 67% of which take action within 1 hour. And the action is, a phone call, a visit, a purchase, a website visit, clicking on the find on the map or whatever. So like people that are looking for like those sorts of businesses, having a site that is totally catered towards enabling the user to take one of those actions is way easier to do by not using a responsive WordPress theme, but by using one of these other tools, which is kind of what we help a lot of businesses do. Because, from a blogger, online marketer, content marketer perspective, we get customers by getting people into our content, engaging with it over time, and warming them up, and then they are looking to buy one of our services. Whereas a local business, you have that 67% chance that you're going to be converting someone into a customer right then and there. So it's less of it being a mobile website, and it's more of it being a sales tool.
Right.
And if you create it correctly, it can really be a sales or lead generation system for those local businesses. So I definitely approach both of them differently, but nonetheless, having it mobile optimized, and for anyone being able to take one of those actions from their device is super important.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, and that's something I do myself too, especially like,
Right.
the whole like looking for food, like I've done, look up the restaurant, you see the number right there and you can just
Yep.
dial an order and
Exactly.
makes things super simple. I mean, there's probably tons of people doing the same exact thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, a large percentage.
Yeah, yeah. But something else I thought would be interesting too to maybe talk a little bit about. I found that I know I haven't dug into it a lot myself, but I know that there's some WordPress plugins out there that supposedly can like
Yeah.
try to convert your site and make it mobile optimized. I mean, what are your thoughts on like some of those types of things?
Yeah. So the main one is there's WP Touch, and then there's which is free, and then there's I think a paid version of that. I think it's WP Touch Pro. I think
Hmm.
it's like $50, which gives you a little bit more flexibility. Um, I mean, it's great if I think those sorts of tools are good if um, you're doing it more recreationally, I would say. But if your blog is a platform to build a business, or that's kind of the foundation for something that's behind it as a business that generates revenue, I really don't think it's going to get you where you need to be. And mainly because again, all of those lead pages, those conversion optimization pages, you're not really going to get that out of one of those plugins. If you just want people to be able to read your blog from your phone, it'll be just fine. But when it comes to getting them to convert into a webinar, signing up for certain services and things like that, I think it falls short there. So depending on what your purpose is, it could be just fine. If
Right.
you're just doing like you just want a blog because you like writing, but I think you kind of need to step it up. And for the cost, I mean, $50 for WP Touch Pro, you might as well just spend $50 and get a responsive WordPress theme, and
Right.
you're light years ahead of where you would have been.
Right, because I know it sort of is just like trying its best. I want to say I used one of them, and that could have been the one, but it was a long time
Yeah.
ago. I don't remember 100%.
Right.
But I just remember it sort of like botched it. It wasn't really.
Yeah. I mean, they usually just focus on mobile optimizing the blog posts. So a lot of people end up going to your resources page, or your about me page, or your work with me page, and all of these other pages that may not be getting accounted for with these plugins. And again, the paid version does a lot much better job, but for at least the same investment, maybe a tiny bit more, you get a solution that I think covers you a whole lot better.
Cool, cool. Yeah, that was something I figured I'd ask about just because,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, you would have known something about it, because I knew they existed.
Yeah.
But do you kind of want to talk a little bit about podcasting and kind of how that's
Yeah,
helped your
sure.
business? And I know you're up to what it's now. I think it was 72 episodes on your
72, yeah, 72 is this past week, and I think it's interesting because we were talking earlier. My show started out as a video-based interview show, side by side, probably through like the first 30, close to 40 episodes,
Yep.
and I went to New Media Expo this past January and was listening to John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire, now a very good friend, who made a comment, and his podcast is huge. He has like hundreds of thousands of unique downloads a month, daily podcasts, which is like insane. But he made a comment when he was talking about why he started Entrepreneur on Fire, and he started daily because he was in real estate, and he would always be in his car commuting from job to job or site to site or what have you, and he was always listening to podcasts from his phone, and he was always on the go, or mobile, if you will, and it got me thinking that like audio is much more mobile friendly than video. And as the mobile guy, it really didn't make much sense to be, producing 45-minute long video interviews, because most likely people wouldn't watch those from their phone. People are watching video from their phone today,
Yeah.
but it's just not as easy to take with you. So, I know the podcast that I listen to, for my phone while I'm driving, working out, walking, riding my bike or something, and you're able to multitask. You can cook dinner while you're listening to a podcast, but while you're cooking dinner, it's really hard to watch a video interview. So I actually went out and polled my audience, and I said, hey, of the people listening and watching, are you actually watching or are you just listening? And almost 90% of them came back and said, we're just listening. We like that we see you because we get a feel for your personality, but after we've seen you a handful of times, I literally just play it in a window and put it behind other windows, and I'm doing my work. So at that point, I was like, okay, no one's really going to care. And the second I went all audio, my podcast skyrocketed, like from downloads and all that stuff. Now, I'm not saying video interviews aren't valuable, because I think they are. I still watch some video-based interviews. I just happen to listen to the audio counterpart more. But there are some things, like David Siteman Garland does a lot of, from the rise to the top.com.
Yep.
He does a lot of like mini lessons now, which are on-screen stuff. And, there's a lot of value there. And I listen to them via audio sometimes, but there's multiple times where I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to go back and watch that because he just clicked on something on his screen and I don't know what that looks like, so I need to know. But for me, just personally, from like a production standpoint, from conducting the interview, I know a lot of people actually do the video interview, but they only post the audio. For me, it was a lot easier to organize myself and ask questions to my guest, where I wasn't saying like, hey, look at this, and then realize that most people can't see it. So now I just do it where I can't see the person, and it just makes me think that I need to make sure that I'm being more visual with the things that I say. That's just how it works for me. So I transitioned all the way to audio, and since it's a lot easier to produce. So.
Are you just using Skype and recording with Skype, or?
Yeah, so when I do the interviews, I use Skype and Ecamm call recorder like we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Before we started recording. But when I do my solo episodes, I do all my editing and everything in GarageBand. So, I mean, nothing super crazy. I know a lot of people use they
use Audacity for the PC.
Yeah, they use Audacity, and they use like some Adobe products, and I keep it super simple, and I have a template that I use in GarageBand, and I just drop my audio in. I do my intros, my outros, and a few other things, and I've got it down to a pretty good system where I can crank them out pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's cool. I like. I'll have to talk to you about it more, but this whole file size thing with the audio is my killer.
Yeah, well, with video, yeah. So that obviously also helped. The
Yeah.
file sizes, you could crank out more for, the hosting fee.
Yeah, I mean, I figured too, like the whole reason that I like to keep the video in was obviously I was getting to know the person, kind of like seeing them and not just hearing them, but more so is I'm a pretty big advocate of the whole idea where Pat Flynn likes that big, be everywhere
Yeah.
strategy,
Hmm.
and I could sort of still be on YouTube. And looking at my YouTube stats, like I noticed like that's probably like because I've had bandwidth issues with my like Libsyn account and actually
Hmm.
keeping my podcast, I'm like actually like over 10 episodes behind on my
Right, right.
iTunes.
Yeah.
I rebranded my show and I had to re-upload everything, and each song is like, or audio, not song,
I had to do the same
is,
thing. I had to recreate my new show and resubmit it all because of all that same stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
it was frustrating, but it was worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think my monthly bandwidth cap is almost up, but my problem is like I've got these 45-minute interviews and they're like 50 megabytes of just audio, because what I'm doing is using a program to like take the YouTube and then just
Yeah,
turn it
yeah.
into an audio file, but I don't know if that's like, I really should figure out if there's a more efficient way.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, again, with the, using something like Camtasia or whatever, that might make the files smaller.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
just
also people out there talking about it.
I know obviously like we started this and we talked about it before the interview, but we were just talking about this, me and Greg, right before we started, and we were gonna, I have Camtasia on my computer and I ran it at the same time as I'm doing this Google Hangout right now, but I just had like a warning like 10 minutes ago that probably my hard drive space was filling up or something. It gave me a warning about it, and it stopped the recording. So
Ah,
I don't have a Camtasia recording any longer, so that's something I'll have to play with. But
yeah, yeah. I'm sure it's something with like the settings or whatever. I actually had that too with the way I had Ecamm call recorder set up originally. It would like stop recording and say like you've maxed out something, and I had to fix the settings and stuff. You just gotta tweak with that stuff
yeah, I mean, I
sometimes.
suppose in a perfect world, if I really wanted to make things ideal, I probably could just get just buy a Mac and then get that software, because it sounds like it's a lot better than what.
Macs are great, man.
Yeah,
I can't complain about it.
yeah, I haven't owned a Mac in like, I want to say like over 20 years. Like I don't like literally when we had one, it was like Warcraft 2 was on it. You know, like it
Yeah.
was like that long ago.
Well, they've gotten better.
Yeah, no, I've been in the Mac store. I like, I was in there and, I was like, well, this is kind of all there is in here, but that and iPads and iPhones,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I've considered it. I just don't know. Like, I already own a bunch of PCs, so it's like, do I want to invest? To get a good one that I could really use for interviews, it would still cost me like at least, if I got a desktop, I think they go for at
Yeah,
least a grand.
yeah, exactly. You're going to be spending the money. Yeah, I got an iMac that I use for basically all my like interviews and stuff like that. But I have like a MacBook Air also that's really old. It's actually starting to die. But I'll probably get like another laptop. But I'm actually contemplating getting an Android phone. I'm kind of just, I don't really feel like Apple is really innovating right now with their
I'm
with their
using
with their phone.
this is what I've got, the HTC Evo.
Yeah, so I have an iPhone 5 now, but I really am digging the I'm so close to getting it, the Samsung Galaxy S4 Google Edition. Um, I'm up for something different, you know?
Something different. Yeah, I mean, the thing that kind of a lot of people always find is these phones. Like, I've owned both versions of the last HTC Evo that came out of this particular model. As it's
Hmm.
the generations, and the screen is like ginormous compared to the iPhone.
Yeah, I'm sort of actually originally I was like I don't want a bigger screen, but for I have a Galaxy S3 that I use for like testing, but I
Yeah,
hadn't had it as my primary device, and I started using it, and now when I use it and then I go back to my iPhone, I'm like, damn, this thing is so small. Like I don't think I'd mind a bigger screen anymore. Whereas like I wouldn't have said that last year, but we'll see.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it all. I mean, I'm sure too. Like, if I had started with an iPhone, like I would just be used to it.
Right.
But I kind of like skipped. I guess I never really jumped on that bandwagon, and I've been on Sprint for way before, since they moved to
Yeah, yeah,
being compatible with Apple products.
yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole world out there. Like, cell phones constantly evolving and changing, and It's insane. Like I can't keep up. I think they've released like two more versions of this phone like since.
Yeah, there's a couple new evos. Now they have like HTC One, or now there's like I saw someone like Samsung just came out with a new thing with like it's also tied to a watch. So like there's your phone, and now there's like a smart watch that like apparently talk to each other.
Wow.
So see, and internet on that screen. So at some point, there's going to be even smaller screens than the phone that people are going to be ending up on your website. So what's that going to look like? So
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
screens on our refrigerators, screens in our car dashboards, like all of these things are becoming, able to access the internet. And what's your site look like when they get there? So people need to start thinking about it just again because more people are accessing the internet from these different devices.
Right, right. Now I know. I guess this is sort of more on the podcasting topic, and I
Yeah.
guess just general, really the whole conversation. But I know, like you mentioned earlier, that you had optimized press, and you have like sort of a like a group that you're coaching.
hmm
Have you like particularly what are like the main methods that you're using like sort of to monetize like your business beyond like offering services for mobile optimization for clients? Like
Sure.
what do you?
So yeah, outside of the services, it's my coaching, which is membership sites, affiliate marketing. I refer a lot of people to a lot of different products.
Yep.
Um, Affiliates off of like conferences that I'm going to speak at is another one. So yeah, so it's really just affiliate and membership and my coaching. I do individual coaching and I do my my membership. It's like a group coaching slash mastermind group
Yep.
where I'm basically teaching a group of people that are trying to build their own mobile marketing business. So I'm training them on that. And I'm actually working on my first information product right now. It's about how to use text message marketing. So it's all about text message marketing, SMS. Um, just started working on that though. So that'll be another form of revenue, but it'll be like a one-time download course versus
Yep.
an ongoing program. So that's pretty much it. I mean, everyone has different ways of doing it. I love the group coaching. I love coaching, but I also love the service. The service aspect of on the back end where I get to work with businesses one on one, and I get like kind of one-off consulting projects sometimes that are a lot of fun to work on. So yeah, that's how I monetize right now.
Yeah. So I mean, are you doing this full time, or do you also have a job?
I am not doing it full time. Probably within the next year will be. I also lead the entire mobile marketing team and strategy for Cabela's, which is a huge retailer in the hunting, camping, fishing space.
Yep.
They have an office here in Denver, so I'm leading that whole mobile charge there as well. So everything that I pretty much work on is in and around mobile.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, at least like so basically your full time job is very very closely related to what you're doing really in your
Oh
free
yeah,
time. To
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's cool, and that's something I've been. It's funny because I'm currently in a support role where I support a software company and their software that they create, but I'm currently like I really doubt anyone that I work with will listen to this, but uh, or my bosses for that matter. But I'm like currently looking for a job, and I interviewed at a place 2 weeks ago that basically I would be doing like full time, like digging in and like doing reports with like Google Analytics and doing AdWords
hmm
for like their clients, and I'm like super psyched to potentially get a job like this because I can apply it to like my own stuff, and I'd really
Absolutely,
be
yeah.
interested, and like that's
It's a great way to transition, and I do hope your current employer doesn't listen to this.
yeah, I could care less, I suppose. Like, what do they,
But yeah,
they can't fire me for it, but
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean it's a great way. I mean, a lot of people will like take the leap, and just start doing it. I've been making the transition, or at least enabling the transition. And I mean I love what I'm doing with Cabela's too. So again, it's in and around mobile. I'm doing some really cool things. We're launching a new mobile website for them,
yeah,
which generates a lot of revenue for the company. So it's fun to work on those big picture things too, or kind of big brand things too. But the small business stuff is definitely really really fulfilling.
yeah, that's cool. I mean, and that's pretty awesome because like obviously I'm sure a lot of stuff you're doing for them is probably going to be able to help you like in your
Yeah,
learning and everything to go with what you're already doing.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's basically exactly what I would hope to accomplish, where I could sort of like transition, like you said, you're
Yeah,
hoping within a year you can move away, and then you'll be able to do these other things more full time. Maybe do more
yeah,
podcasts or do more coaching and things like that.
yeah. You'll get there, man. I mean, it's just have a plan. Um, I started with no plan whatsoever, and
I think
slowly.
consistency is the big thing, is what it seems.
It is, yeah, yeah, 100%. Definitely consistency. I mean, uh, I probably have to say, outside of my relationship, I probably haven't been more consistent with anything than I have been with my podcast. Like, I've released 72 episodes every single week since I started, and it was um, last June that I started. So, over a year now straight, every week there's been a podcast released, and I've definitely systematized it a little bit. I'm doing multiple recordings a week, so I'm not like always doing the recording the day before the episode. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, 72, man. That
Yeah. No, it's
is a lot of
awesome.
work. It's
Yeah.
a lot of consistency too. Yeah, so I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, this will be. I think I published my first one in March, but I sort of had like a drop off around June-ish or before, because I bought a home, and I sort of just dropped out of this. But ever since, I've started really like reaching out to people. I mean, overall the response is pretty good. Like, some people I won't hear from them when I reach out, but I mean overall,
Oh
I've
yeah,
already had some great guests, including yourself, and
yeah. Thanks.
um,
I mean, you have Pat Flynn on, so I mean,
yeah. I mean,
he's a hard dude to get to. I mean, and
yeah.
he's one of the most giving people in the world. So,
Yeah, I think that's.
he
I noticed he's sort of like, I suppose if you go back on that be everywhere strategy, which for anyone who's listening that doesn't know what that is, it's basically like putting yourself out there as much as you possibly can, and
right.
being on, like, audio, YouTube, being on a blog, things like that. And Pat, I notice, is like interviewed all over the place, like people interviewing
Yeah.
him. Like, I think I saw some guy who was like interviewing him on like some French, so like the whole blog was in French. Like,
There you
I couldn't
go.
even read it, and he was being
He does
interviewed.
it well. He does it well. I mean,
So
there's not many people that do it like him.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's sort of like a whole giving back thing, and that's really what's like setting him so far ahead of a lot of these other people, because he's just gives, gives, gives.
And and just for those people that are listening, that if they haven't ever seen Pat, Pat's been doing this for like 5 years. So, like myself and you who like are still very new to the game.
Yep.
Um, he's been at it for a very long time. So like, he's built up. He's done all of the stuff that we're doing now. So you can't forget it wasn't an overnight success by any means, but I mean he's been consistent for 5 years. So that
Sure.
is something to take away from it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I really like about the whole podcasting thing is, like, every time I do an interview, I feel like I'm just adding that much more. Like now, like for you, for example, now you can say I've done over 70 episodes, and it's like, pretty gratifying to think that,
Oh
like,
yeah. It's
that
cool when you see, like I look at my Lipson account and I see like another country that has now downloaded my podcast.
yeah,
I'm in like 110 countries right now, which is pretty cool. Just the fact that people are listening to me in all over the world is like, it's just cool. And then like people connect with me through like email and all of that stuff, and they're like,
right,
hey, I have a huge, not huge. I mean, I have a good audience in Australia, and like I mean, I want to go to Australia, so it's like now whenever I go to Australia, I'm gonna be like, hey, let's link up, show me around, and all these people keep asking me to go. They're like, when are you gonna come? When are you gonna come? It's like, how else would this have ever happened unless I had done the podcast? It's like so many other doors could be opened, just by doing it.
Are you finding that? I mean, what are you averaging, like, for downloads per month?
It really ranges. So, well, not really ranges. July was sort of weird. So my audience obviously my topic is super niche, but I
Yeah.
have close to like 6 to 7 thousand unique downloads a month.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I'm happy with it. I talk to people who obviously have hundreds of thousands, but their podcasts are way more broad than mine. I mean, but I mean, with the 6 to 7 thousand downloads, I mean, I've been in the top 200 business ranked podcasts. I kind of fluctuate in and around there. the highest I've ever been in business was 37 top, obviously top 50. That was cool. I'm
Yeah, that's
super
still
stoked about
awesome,
that.
man.
Last time I checked, I was like 101 or something, and which is like where Derek Halpern was. He doesn't do as many episodes of his podcast
Yeah,
anymore. So,
I think I just
um,
read he's going to relaunch it soon, actually.
yeah, so I'm sure it's going to boost way back up there again, just because he has such a huge audience, on email and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. I mean, creates tons of exposure. You know, tons of people that would have never ever come to my site now connect with me because of the podcast. So, people just choose to consume content in different ways, and podcast is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have been like back and forth because I know, at least two people that I know that we've mentioned before the show is, Mike Thomas of Mike from Maine and
Hmm.
John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire. They both do daily podcasts and daily interviews. And, I have a full-time job. There's just like no way I could make that happen. I know both of them, they're able to. I know John, he does his, like he'll do all of them in one day and he'll
Yeah,
just
he's
spend the
he's
whole day.
insane. He's insane. He
But
does eight interviews every single Monday.
yeah, like it's just a lot. But I mean, I
Yeah.
figured if I did one a week, or at very least two a week, very least one a week and maybe two a week, I could, stay consistent with it, and then, just gonna build and build. But my thing is like I'm still trying to build that audience, like get myself
Yeah.
known.
That's
And
baby steps, man.
yeah,
Just gotta take your time and figure out exactly who the audience is and all that stuff, and you'll get there. I mean, I know a lot about mobile and all of this stuff when it came to podcasting and building my audience and all that stuff. Like, well, I mean, that was all new to me. So I'm still figuring out the online aspect of it. And it's funny because now I get people asking me to coach them on building their platform, which I'm like getting ready to start doing also because I've been fairly good at it. Um, but I mean, that's like you just learn all these new things. So.
right. Did you find that, and this is something that just popped in my head, did you find that when Pat Flynn interviewed you, I think I want to say you were in like episode, like, I don't
I think it
remember
was
the
like
number, but in the 40s
65
or
or
50s?
something.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It was somewhere in the 60s, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, give or take, months ago, but did you notice like a huge burst in traffic when that?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, like, so in and around that time, like in a span of like a month, I was on Internet Business Mastery. I was on Pat Flynn. I was on Amy Porterfield. I was on Social Media Examiner. I was on Chris Ducker. All within like a month and a half, which was like, that was huge for me. I mean, I probably doubled my email list, and definitely had way more downloads of my podcast.
Yeah, I bet.
So things like that. Obviously, guest posting, getting featured on other podcasts. It was definitely helpful, and I can say that I'm thankfully like I mean I don't think I would have ever been on any of those podcasts if I hadn't built a relationship with those people in person, which I started doing at New Media Expo in January, and I became friends with them, stayed in contact with them, went to other conferences and met them, continue to hang out with them. I text some of these people and call these people like all the
Yeah,
time, and we talk all the time. Outside of that, if I didn't have something valuable to bring to their audience, I wouldn't have been on their show. So it's not like just because I
right.
was, a friend. Like, I mean, all of those people are doing things online, and none of them are really talking about mobile. So, as the expert to their audience, they need to do their audience, a service of making sure that they're up to speed on everything. So, I had an opportunity by being super focused in mobile to share something valuable with all of those people. So, they
Right.
all wanted me to come on and talk to their audience, which was awesome because, a lot of their audience have become my audience. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely pretty awesome, and that's something I figured too. Is I know that like for me to reach out to people that are pretty big, like for me to go out to Pat Flynn and send him an email and just say, hey, could you help me with this? And I'm like some nobody, then obviously it's just not going to work. But the thing with the interviews too is like you can really build like a solid foundation with the people that you have on your show, and then use that as something later on to help your business or
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so I'll kind of end with this is um, and I've been starting to tell people about more and more about this, but So I started my podcast in June of last year. Reached out to Pat fairly shortly after that. I'd been following his blog for a long time, just asking like little one-off questions. Hey, how did you do this or what have you? And he responded to me. I mean, he's really good with responding to emails. And just built a relationship with him. Found an opportunity to get him on my podcast.
Yep.
And shortly thereafter, this was I think in July or something. I was like, hey, dude, like if you were me and you're just getting started and you didn't have a lot of money and you could go to one conference, like what would it be? And he was like, go to New Media Expo in Vegas in January. He's like, let's link up, we'll hang out, blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, cool, like I'm in. So invested in that. I went to New Media Expo with the one intention of this conference will be considered success if I meet Pat. It was the only person that like I wasn't trying to meet 100 people. I was like, I'm going to meet Pat. And that was success for me. And because I was focused on one person, I went and I saw him in the hallway, walked up to him, I was like, yo, Pat, and he actually knew who I was. He was like, Greg, what's going on, man? Good to meet you. And we started talking, and then we hit it off, and he connected me with all these other people. Next thing you know, I'm hanging out with him, Amy Porterfield, John Dumas, Chris Ducker, Jeremy and Jason from Internet Business Master, like all these people. And then I got to meet all of those people. And then I slowly started building a relationship with those people. And I mean, I genuinely like love all these people. They're all like amazingly good people. And but I only went to meet Pat. And I think if I went to try to meet all of those people and try to build those relationships with those people, it would have never been successful. Like, I wanted to build a relationship with Pat because I looked at him and I wanted to achieve similar things. More so from like his lifestyle. I mean, he spends a lot of time with his family, and I want to be able to do that when I have a family. So like, I want to set myself up for that, and he does a really good job of building a business around his life.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to connect with him, and that was it. So like, my advice to everyone that's listening is find someone that like you want to meet and do everything you can in your power to start building that relationship with them early. I mean, I was talking with Pat for almost 6 months before I ever went there to go meet him in person. So
Wow.
I knew that by the time I got there, he knew who I was. And it wasn't being like pestering or anything. I got him on my podcast. I stayed in touch with email and Twitter and stuff like that. But I went for just him. So find the one person that like you see that's ahead of you, that you want to like strive for that level of accomplishment or whatnot, or whatever is your own reason for following that person, and do whatever you can to go meet that person in person and start building that relationship. But only focus on one, because if you try to do all the others, it's going to be unsuccessful.
Yeah, I mean, he would definitely be on the top of my list if I were to pick someone. I figure off the top of my head, and it's just funny. I don't know if you've met him, but I really like the blog Social Triggers, Derek Halpern's stuff.
Yeah. I've actually never met Derek in person yet.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the opportunity though at some point. I mean, we have a lot of mutual friends, so
Yeah, all those.
one day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and then to meet some of these other people like that are doing these interview shows and things, I think would be pretty awesome too. Like obviously, I did an interview I mentioned to you recently with Andrew Warner, and I'm hoping at some point to reach out to David Siteman Garland. So,
yeah, I mean, I love David. I mean, I resonate with David's content a lot. I took his Create Awesome Interviews course. That's how I started making my course.
Yeah.
How to create awesome interviews, and that's how I got started with my video-based interviews. So, like, the reason I started with video-based interviews was because of David Siteman Garland.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't met him in person yet. I've exchanged a handful of emails. One day I'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in due time, these events,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know we're pushing like a good 50 minutes here, I think, so we can wrap this up. But yeah, this
Cool.
has been great, really valuable.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate it, and I hope so.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch, and if anything comes up, maybe I know you mentioned, you're working on your first course, and that sounds like it's definitely going to be really unique if it regards, text messaging. That's it's kind of unheard of in this industry, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, I got Pat using text messaging in his conferences for his conference presentations and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to use it. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the course is all about how to use text message marketing.
Cool. Yeah, maybe I'll have you on again when that's released. We could talk about that. That would be
Yeah,
cool.
that'd be awesome.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Well, I'll stay in touch, and
Please
thanks for
do.
coming on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Bye.
Bye bye.